It's more like a top predator in the Great Lakes than a parasite, really.
The Great Lakes are under siege. Invasive species are moving in, like the sea lamprey, a parasitic fish now found in all 5 of the Great Lakes. And now, a new threat is moving in, Asian carp, and researchers worry that the lakes can't handle another unwanted guest.
I don't think we want to find out what could happen if they get into the Great Lakes.
Levi Solomon is looking for a threat lurking in the Illinois River. He's electrofishing, putting a small current of electricity into the water. It stuns fish for a few moments, long enough for Levi and his team to pick them up.
We're gonna hit the power, see what we have. 3, 2, 1. Power's on. All right, power's down. That's a big one.
These fish are a problem, and a recent one. They weren't found in these waters a decade ago.
This is our silver carp. So this is the invasive planktivore that everybody is concerned about. This is the fish we are trying to keep out of the Great Lakes.
They're best known for these stunning aerial displays at the first sign of stress. That's how they react to danger. It's great when the threat is underwater, not so much when it's a boat passing by.
There's been a couple that have got a couple fat lips and a bloody nose, but other people have been hurt worse. There's stories out there of people who've gotten broken jaws in the past. So they can be very dangerous.
They're especially dangerous because of how fast they can take over.
We got a few fish jumping, so we're gonna hit the power.
They breed and eat and grow at incredible rates. And right now, they're moving their way up the Mississippi towards Lake Michigan.
Right now, they're within 30 or 40 miles of the Great Lakes.
Here, 2 hours south of Lake Michigan, the river is packed with Asian carp. So much so that after an hour of electrofishing, only 2 native fish are captured.
Right here, we have one of our native fish. This is a sport fish. This is a white bass. All right, we have another native fish. It's a smallmouth buffalo. This is one of our commercially viable fish. I think that was all of our natives.
The rest of the capture is Asian carp.
Some bigger silver carp. So we've seen what looks like a shift in the structure of the fish community. Some species are less abundant now than they were before Asian carp. Other species are more abundant now than they were before Asian carp. So what we're seeing is a shifting of the community from one structure to a different structures. In the late 2000s, staff out of our field station documented Asian carp spawning up to 4 times in 1 year alone. We've also documented large silver carp having egg masses of up to 2.3 million eggs per female. That's not the end of it. So when they spawn, the eggs hatch, the larval fish get into the river, and they can grow very, very rapidly. This Asian carp, you can tell, is got a plump area right here. This is probably a female full of eggs. So that's a lot of potential larval Asian carp that could end up in the river. So they filter water through their mouth, and it goes over the gill rakers. If you look in there, the gill rakers are the white, spongy-like material. And these on silver carp can filter down to 4 micron, which is very, very small. So since they can feed on food particles that are much smaller than our native fish, they have access to more resources in the river, which again gives them yet another advantage along with their growth over our native fish.
They were brought over to North America because of these impressive filtering skills.
A lot of aquaculture facilities had plankton blooms, so they brought these in to control the plankton blooms and improve water quality. From there, a lot of those aquaculture ponds are in the floodplain. Mississippi River comes up, floods those aquaculture ponds, the Asian carp escape into the Mississippi River itself. And slowly but surely, since the late 70s, they've spread throughout the Mississippi. They spread up into the state of Missouri, the state of Illinois, up through the Missouri River and into the Illinois River. The Illinois River is now a major connection between the Great Lakes and the Mississippi River. It's tough to tell what changes can be related to Asian carp and what changes cannot. What we do know is up to 60% of the biomass, the weight of the fish within the Illinois River is now Asian carp. It was not that way before Asian carp. We can't prove it scientifically, but anybody who'd come out here and saw the densities that we have in the river, it's pretty obvious that they probably are affecting the river one way or another. I don't think we want to find out what could happen if they get into the Great Lakes.
Researchers know how dangerous invasives can be by studying the species that have already moved in. Scientists count 186 invasive species already taking over the lakes. One of the deadliest, sea lampreys.
Let's get the truck hooked up here. Ed, do you want to grab me some nets?
Here on the Aquioc River near Lake Huron, April Almond is checking her sea lamprey traps.
Can you hear him yet? Alright, couple big males.
Light-colored ones, a couple of them there. That's a good catch.
Yeah, looks pretty good. At the beginning of the spawning season, the biggest day we had was probably over 1,000 sea lampreys in this trap.
Sea lampreys are a fish normally found in the ocean. No one knows how they made the switch to freshwater, but they were spotted in the lakes in the 1800s and quickly spread. They're a parasite, using their disc-like suction cup mouth to latch onto fish, breaking down tissue and feasting on blood. In the ocean, the fish are so big that they barely notice the parasite. But in the lakes, fish can't handle it.
More like a top predator in the Great Lakes than a parasite. All the fish in the Great Lakes, the native fishes, can't live and feed and function properly with a parasite this size attached to their side. They won't eat the same, they won't be able to prey on things the same, and eventually they'll die.
Only 1 out of 7 lakefish survive a sea lamprey attack. Left uncontrolled, they could cause $7 billion of damage to the Great Lakes fishery.
Holy cow. This is a big female. She is full of eggs. I don't know if you guys can see this, but she's fat compared to another female here. Now a female can lay 80 to 100,000 eggs in a spawning season. So this would be pretty close to 100,000 in here, possibly. But about only 10% of those will end up hatching. 51 females and 56 males. Yeah. Perfect.
That's 107 sea lampreys and their thousands of babies that are now out of the Great Lakes and helping teams with research. But with hundreds of thousands of sea lampreys in these waters, it barely scratches the surface.
It's not likely that they'll ever be completely eradicated. It's more of a control effort now, but it's important because one sea lamprey can kill 40 pounds of fish during its feeding time, and that's just one. Female.
As sea lampreys prey on fish in Lake Huron, researchers scramble to see if Asian carp are already hitting Lake Michigan.
One big head carp was captured fairly close proximity to Lake Michigan. It is extremely feasible for that big head carp to have been in Lake Michigan. It would be extremely bad.
invasive species are already a massive threat to the Great Lakes and its native residents. Researchers worry what would happen if another invasive species, Asian carp, moved in. The carp are snaking up the Illinois River towards Lake Michigan. This is where the two connect, the front lines for the battle against the carp, where researchers are fighting to keep them out.
This is the most high-risk causeway for passage from the Mississippi River into the Great Lakes, is through Chicago area waterway system, and specifically the Chicago Sanitary and Shipping Canal.
Downstream, the river is chock full of Asian carp, and they're moving north. But Matthew Shanks is hoping that it's still possible to keep them out of the Great Lakes.
I was hired to make sure that our barriers work, so that they are keeping fish on the downstream side of the barriers, and that those fish are not able to penetrate upstream through the barriers to gain access to the Great Lakes.
This barrier is a multi-million-dollar roadblock for the fish on the river near Romeoville, Illinois. It pulses electric currents into the water to keep animals from crossing through. It was installed in 2002 and seemed to be working flawlessly until 2010, when one lone Asian carp somehow managed to slip through.
In 2010, one big head carp was captured upstream of the dispersal barrier. It was captured in Lake Calumet, specifically on this north branch of the lake over here. This is fairly close proximity to Lake Michigan. So you can see the connecting channel, and there's only approximately 6 miles before it actually reaches Lake Michigan. It would be extremely bad.
Since then, they haven't taken any chances. Today, they're doing a blitz, hitting the waters with all they've got to see if any more have gotten through.
We are on the Calumet River, just south of Lake Michigan by about 10 to 12 miles.
They've got 10 spots to hit for 15 minutes at a time.
All right, you guys ready to start this? Nick, our run is going to be in the first slip to our left.
All right.
The netters hop up there. And if you guys are ready, we'll start the generator and get this going. All fingers crossed and toes that we see no Asian carp of any kind. What we're looking for are large-bodied fish, roughly between 15 to 30 inches in length. We're looking for sharp movements away from the boat, jumping fish. Those are all indicators that we might have an Asian carp somewhere in the area. Electrofishing is a great tool for shallow water areas. As you get deeper, the electricity dissipates the further away you get from the boat. So we can only shock roughly about 10 feet away from the boat effectively. Okay, that's it. Pull the nets in, start working the fish up.
Another largemouth. And we got another nice sized largemouth right here. Oh. Nice sized fish. Another largemouth. Blunt-nosed minnow. Oh, got nice colored, nice rock bass here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 more blunt-nosed. Here's the banded killifish, the state endangered species.
While Matt's team is electrofishing, other crews are testing out their gear.
So this is the Illinois Natural History Survey, and they're setting a pound net. So as the fish swim through this narrow gap, They kind of are funneled into the net, and then because it's a funnel, they cannot move back out. They get trapped in that area and they lose sight of where that exit actually is. So we'll check these nets several times throughout the week, make sure that our nets are fishing well, and that'll be another piece of information we use when deciding whether or not we have Asian carp presence within Lake Calumet.
The more sites they hit, the more native fish they pull up.
1 smallmouth, 2, 3, 4 rock bass.
This is a white perch. It's got the double dorsal fins. If you look back here, 3 anal spines, and the last 2 are about the same size.
And still, no Asian carp. Good news, that means the barrier is working. They're winning the battle, but the war is far from over.
I am deeply concerned about Asian carp getting into the Great Lakes. We caught 246 fish today. I think your numbers in those fish will change. So we may have caught roughly about 55 smallmouth bass. With Asian carp in the area and our food sources dwindling for native fish, we might see that cut in half.
And while it's not yet happening in the lakes, it is still happening in the tributaries just a few kilometers downstream. Both Levi and Matt are trying to rally the most ruthless predator of them all, humans.
There is a market for Asian carp for food. It's usually the Asian market. It's very small around the Chicagoland area. We don't see a whole lot of people specifically going for Asian carp.
The best predator of Asian carp would be people, but the word carp seems to have a negative connotation when it comes to eating. Most people view the Asian carp, they're big, they're ugly, they're smelly, which is all true, but they taste delicious. In China, where Asian carp are native, they actually have the opposite problem. Since they've eaten them, they grew up with them, they adapted to eat them. They fished most silver and bighead carp out of their native waters in China. So I think they actually have stocking programs to reestablish Asian carp and to bring back Asian carp numbers over there.
So Asian carp can be fished commercially. That's probably not going to happen with sea lampreys. So how are they being controlled?
We can trick them with their own love cocktail, so to speak.
Corey Brandt is mixing up a love potion for sea lampreys.
It's like we're love bartenders and we're mixing up the perfect love potion number 3K PZS, whatever compound it may be.
Here on the Aquioc River, the lampreys are moving upstream to spawn. And Corey wants to know if he can manipulate them using pheromones, unique chemical signatures that lampreys use to find each other when it's time to mate.
Really what I have here is less than 2 milligrams of the synthesized pheromone, and that's about like taking a grain of salt, smashing it, and taking one of those tiny pieces and putting it in 30 gallons of water and pumping it over 3 hours.
He's been studying lampreys for years and using their most powerful weapon, their nose, against them.
To get an idea, we know that German shepherds can smell really, really well. Well, sea lamprey can smell anywhere between 10 and 100 times better than a German shepherd, which is already several fold better than a human can smell.
The river here is split in two, and on one side, he's releasing his diluted love potion. Ideally, the lampreys head straight for this tube, thinking it's a potential mate.
So I'm making sure that these pumps are calibrated to release at a very consistent rate. I want the pheromone to be released kind of like a male would release a pheromone. So right now this is an ovulated female sea lamprey, and it's responding to a male mating pheromone component. Just a single component So it's one chemical in a very, very minute concentration. And she's able to track this up the stream and actually follow the plume of smell.
Corey tracks the female lamprey upstream, right to where the pheromone is pumping out.
So I'm gonna see if I can grab her out. And of course, it's sucking onto the rock that it was probably going to try to move. Oh, there we go.
So Corey has found a way to attract the sea lampreys. Upstream, John Hume is looking for ways to repel them.
So here we've designed an experiment to enable us to test a particular chemical compound which is derived from the dead bodies of sea lampreys.
This jug contains a delicious concoction of blended up sea lampreys, which should give off a scent telling live sea lampreys to stay away.
The reason that we do this is that we hope that it would guide the migration of the lamprey from areas that we don't want them into areas that we do want them. In this instance here, what you see is a barrier which has been built in the middle of a stream to enable us to have two distinct areas of flow which are separate from one another. They are faced with a choice on whether or not to follow the left-hand side of the stream, which in this case will contain the odour of dead sea lamprey, or the right-hand side of the stream, which contains no odour whatsoever, it's just normal river water. So Luke is lifting the door to the cage open, so this now gives the lamprey free access to the river. And the lamprey should orient themselves upstream, so they should be able to move out. So the first lamprey is beginning to move upstream now.
The sea lampreys come pouring out of the trap. They're tagged to create an audible response when they swim through the barrier. Some flee upstream on the right-hand side of the barrier. The others flee downstream. All of them steer clear of the alarm substance. To get a clearer picture of how the sea lampreys react, John tests it in a controlled setting.
So this is the alarm substance that we're using in the river systems that we explained earlier, and this is the response of captive sea lamprey when exposed to just a small amount of the extract. Let's have a look at what happens here. So what we're seeing here is the lamprey responding to the alarm cue because they think that there's dead lamprey further upstream, so they're responding to some form of danger which they think is coming their way, so that's why they're turning around and heading the other way.
Keeping invasive species out of the lakes is top priority. But with 186 invasive species already in the Great Lakes, it's impossible to get rid of them all. Now, they can use pheromones and alarm substances to steer sea lampreys away from important fisheries and towards traps instead. It's a vital tool to keep these invaders from inflicting massive damage to the lakes and the native animals that call them home.
And these are so good at what they do. They're so good at their life history. And it's so finely tuned at this point that I know that they can inflict basically horrendous damage on the fishery if not controlled. So to me, that's why it's so important to keep these under control here in the Great Lakes.